السنة مثل سفينة نوح، من ركبها نجا ومن تركها غرق.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله الحمد لله الذي الحمد لله الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد. As to what proceeds, in our previous meeting with regards to the book al-Usul al-Thalathah, illustrated by Shaykh al-Islam al-Imam al-Mujaddid Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab Rahimahullah ta'ala, we discussed the issue of beneficial knowledge and harmful knowledge, al-ilm al-nafi' and ilm ghayr al-nafi'. In our previous meetings, we have discussed a lot of issues relating to the importance of seeking knowledge, its merits and its virtues, and some issues relating to this topic. We defined these introductory lessons as a preface or as a al-madkhal, like they say in the Arabic language. And I hope that they have been beneficial for those who have been attending, as it is the normality of the people of the West that whenever you start a course or a book or a lecture that continuously goes on for a few weeks, you have great numbers at the start and then the numbers start dropping for many reasons. This is a catastrophe or a calamity that has been noticed by many of the people of knowledge who have visited the West, and in particular the UK. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to rectify our affairs. Today's discussion is aqsam al-Uloom al-Shar'iyya, the categories of Uloom al-Shar'iyya, the Shari'a types of knowledge. So this is what we are going to discuss today in today's lesson. We still haven't started the book, and I think many of the students may be complaining that we were told that we are going to be studying al-Usul al-Thalathah, and this is probably the 7th or the 8th lesson, and we have studied nothing to do with the book. Maybe there are people who might pose that question forward. But I think it's very important to know that before we start to study the book, there are many issues which we need to be aware of and be acquainted with. So, in this lesson, al-Ilm al-Shar'i, somebody is asking what's the definition of al-Ilm al-Shar'i. Al-Ilm al-Shar'i هو العلم بدين الله عز وجل. Al-Ilm al-Shar'i is defined as having knowledge with regards to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the people of knowledge have categorized al-Ilm al-Shar'i or al-Uloom al-Shar'iyyah into three main categories. As al-Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala mentions when he says, وَالْعِلْمُ أَقْسَامٌ ثَلَاثٌ مَا لَهَا مِنْ رَابِئٍ والعلم أقسام ثلاث ما لها من رابع والحق ذو تبيان علم بأوصاف الإله وفعله وكذلك الأسماء للرحمن والأمر والنهي الذي هو دينه وجزاؤه يوم المعاد الثاني. So Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah has mentioned these three categories which I am going to mention with regards to al-Ulum al-Shar'iyya in al-Kafiyah al-Shafiyah في الانتصار للفرقة الناجية, famously known as the Qasidah Nooniyah of Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala. So are you following me so far that al-Ilm al-Shar'i, as one of the students asked, what is al-Ilm al-Shar'i? Al-Ilm al-Shar'i is al-Ilmu bideen Allahi azza wa jal, to have knowledge with regards to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the people of knowledge have said and have categorized this. They say أنواع العلوم الشرعية النافعة إلى ثلاثة أقسام. That beneficial Shari'a knowledge is divided into three categories. So that knowledge which is al-Nafi'ah, beneficial, ash-Shar'iyya, Islamic, is divided into three categories. Al-Qism al-Awwal, or the first category, is Ilm al-Aqidah. Ilm al-Aqidah, having knowledge of the tenets or the precepts or the beliefs, creed, knowledge with regards to creed. ومدار, and it's this knowledge, مداره على معرفة الأسماء والصفات. The basis of knowing or obtaining this type of knowledge is based upon knowing the beautiful names and the most perfect attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And وما يعتقد في أبواب الإيمان, and everything that a person needs to believe when it comes to the different aspects of Iman. So this is the first category, al-Ilm al-Aqidah. Are you following me? It took us 7 lessons categorically to come to this stage or point, reach this stage or point, which is al-Thalathah. The book which we want to study is from the first category, which I have just mentioned, of beneficial Shari'a type of knowledge. The reason why al-Asmaء wa-Sifat, the beautiful names and the most perfect attributes of Allah, the perfect attributes of Allah which are free from any form of imperfection, the reason of why this category of Tawheed, which is one of the three categories of Tawheed, Tawheed al-Asma'i wa-Sifat, has been mentioned in particular, it's because the early forms of deviation, the first deviation that occurred or happened historically in the ummah of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, or for the people to deviate from the straight path when it came to the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ummah, I mean the ummah of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, was with regards to the beautiful names and the perfect attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why this has been mentioned. With regards to al-Rububiyyah wal-Uluhiyyah, then this is something which was not disputed at its early stages. When the fitan and the calamities and the deviation occurred within the Muslim ummah, then we find that it was to do with the beautiful names and the most perfect attributes of Allah. That's why you will find that the early books that were written on Tawheed, for example, the Kitab al-Tawheed of Imam al-Bukhari, which is the last book in his Sahih, or Kitab al-Tawheed of al-Imam ibn Khuzaymah and others, or Kitab al-Tawheed of Ibn Mundah, then the word Tawheed here refers to the Tawheed of the beautiful names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the most perfect attributes. So this is the first category that has been mentioned. Are you following what I'm saying? And do you understand the reason of why the people of knowledge in particular, when they mentioned ilm al-Aqidah, they mentioned al-Asmaء wal-Sifat? There is a reason for this. It's not just because they feel like mentioning one category of Tawheed over the other. You need to know the reason of why these things are mentioned by the people of knowledge. The second category is, as the people of knowledge they say, is ma'rifatul amri والنهي والحلال والحرام. Having knowledge of that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded and that which He has prohibited. That which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made halal and that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made haram. Or in simple words, we could say, meaning to a certain aspect, fiqh, as what we call today, having knowledge of halal and haram, the fiqh of halal and haram. This is the second category of al-Ulum al-Shar'iyya the people of knowledge they speak about. Are you following me? With regards to the second category, you know the second category is what I mentioned. The second category which I mentioned is معرفة الأمر والنهي والحلال والحرام. The third category is علم الجزاء. علم الجزاء, and that is وهو جزاء المرء على أفعاله في الدنيا والآخرة. علم الجزاء is that the having knowledge of what the servant will be requited or rewarded for his actions in this world and in the hereafter. And this jaza or recompensation is with adl and ihsan, with justice and goodness. It includes al-jaza' al-dunyawi wal-jaza' al-ukhrawi, being requited for your actions in this world as well as the hereafter. So having this knowledge, the concept of al-Jannah wal-Nar, paradise and hell, the hellfire. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clarifies for us of what He will reward His servants, that their actions will, that He will reward His servants, either if He wishes to punish them for the wrong actions that He did, which is within the framework of justice and goodness, al-Adl wal-Ihsan, or whether He forgives them and pardons them, or whether those who are obedient are to enter into paradise with His mercy. And nobody will be oppressed. Even an atom of oppression will not occur for His slaves and servants. So ilm al-jaza. Al-ilm al-jaza is related to at-targhib wa tarhib, as many of you asked. At-targhib is to encourage you to know about the good actions that a believer does and what his reward will be. His servitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And at-tarhib is to warn him and caution him and to scare him that if he is disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this is his punishment. If he breaks the laws and takes the law into his hand and commits a crime, then this will be his punishment in the dunya. Or his punishment will be postponed into the akhirah and he will be judged. So these are the three types of al-Uloom al-Shar'iyya. Everything else, as al-Qayyim rahimahullah mentioned in his al-Nooniyah, like I mentioned, al-Uloom al-Shar'iyya al-Nafi'ah is either to do with ilm al-Aqidah, ma'rifatul amri wal-Nahi, wal-Halal wal Haram, and ilm al-Jaza. That's why the Shaykh of Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, when he talked about the subject of the Quran, he also made a similar statement when he mentioned, where he said that the Quran, as we know that from the beginning till the end, is at-Tawheed, and that the khulasa or the conclusion of the Quran can be found in Surah Al-Fatiha, starting with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim being the first ayah, and غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ being the last ayah. But Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah said that the Quran is divided into 3 thirds. 1/3 of the Quran, thuluth, is only about the Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The 2nd third of the Quran is to do with al-Halal and Haram. And the 3rd third of the Quran is with regards to al-Jaza. And he mentioned al-Qasas, stories, and al-Jaza. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah mentioned similar to what Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah mentioned. So this is a student of knowledge, that when you decide to pursue and take the path of knowledge, this is the path or the direction or the cause that you should be heading towards. And no doubt that which was mentioned categorically, ilm al-Aqidah, takes preference before ilm al-Halal wal Haram wa ma'rifatul amri wal Nahi. And only by knowing what is halal and what is haram, you will be able to know your jaza, or what you will be requited with, or rewarded with, or punished with. So how great are our scholars, of even when they categorize, they mention al-ahamu fal-aham, that which is the most important for us. And no doubt that al-Usul al-Thalatha is related to the first category. It took us 7 lessons to actually understand, by taking a straight road and going through all the important issues, before we actually reached to this point today, that ilm al-Aqidah is a branch of al-Uloom al-Shar'iyyah al-Nafi'ah. And this categorization, somebody will ask that, what is this categorization? They say that this categorization of al-Uloom al-Shar'iyyah al-Nafi'ah is in relation to its topic or subject. Just like Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah Rahimahullah mentioned that the Quran, the mawdu' of the Quran, or the subject of the Quran, is divided into 3. This categorization is in relation bi'atibari usuli mawdu'atiha, in terms of study of subject. Are you following me? Somebody will say, well, there's other subjects that we have, and this, and why weren't these mentioned, and why are only these 3 mentioned? So we say that from the angle, or from the perspective of why these have been mentioned, is ba'itibari usuli mawdu'atiha. Because the masail, or the issues of al-Ulum al-Shar'iyyah, so the masail, or the issues pertaining to al-Ulum al-Shar'iyyah, the Shari'a knowledge, are either ilmiya, based upon knowledge, which are mutawaqqifa ala al-iman wa tasdiq, that the issues pertaining to al-Ulum al-Shar'iyyah are knowledge based, dependent upon iman and tasdiq. So the first category, ilm al-Aqidah, is ilmiyah mutawaqqifa, theoretical, dependent upon believing and attesting. فهذا من الاعتقاد. This is what is known as ilm al-Aqidah. وإما عملية, or they are either practical, implemented, on the basis of practically doing actions by implementing this knowledge, then that is dependent upon following guidance, ala ittiba' al-huda, by obeying everything that which we have been commanded to do, and abstaining from everything that we have been forbidden to do so. That is the second category. And then the third category is that this knowledge, which is either theoretical or practically implemented, it gives you the ruling that if you follow this knowledge, this will be your reward. And if you oppose this knowledge theoretically or practically by implementing it, then this will be your punishment. Subhanallah. See how the people of knowledge explain these 3 categories. Did you understand what was mentioned in the last thing which I mentioned? Was it understood of how ilm al-aqidah is ilmiyah? Ma'rifatul amri wal-nahi wal-halal wal-haram is amaliyah. And how the third category is that it informs you of, which is ilmul jaza, that if you believe theoretically and practically and obey that which you have been commanded to do and abstain from that which you have been told or prohibited from, then this will be your reward. And if you oppose any of that, then this will be your punishment. So this is how these three categories are interlinked. And as we know that ilmiya, theoretical knowledge, precedes practical knowledge, which is amaliyah. And this is the notion of the Quran from the beginning till its end, that iman always precedes actions in the Quran. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. We will never find action preceding iman. Al-iman wa tasdiq. So we have this in the Quran. And we have this from the Salaf to the Khalaf. The three categories of al-Ulum al-Shar'iyya, from the perspective of their subject, they can further be explained or elaborated upon as ilmul aqidah being amaliyah, knowledge which is, ilmiyah, knowledge which is related to theoretical learning, which is what we are going to learn, al-Usul al-Thalathah, theoretically. And then the second category of knowledge that was mentioned, which is to do with al-amru wal-nahi wal-halal wal-haram, is amaliyah. This is to do with the actions. And then the third category is that if you are obedient or disobedient after theoretically, after either following and adhering to that which is theoretical or practical, or opposing theoretical and practical knowledge, then either you will be rewarded or punished. This is ilmul jaza. So for those who say that actions has no role in iman, a deviated sect, then this is enough to refute them. That's why we find that in the Quran, iman has always preceded actions. In the entire Quran. And al-iman is ilmul aqidah. In this context, the contextual background of our discussion shows that ilm al-i'tiqad or ilm al-aqidah is ilm al-iman. Are we clear on this? Of what has been mentioned? Unlike some of you said, that Bukhari said, Babul ilmi qabla al-qawli wal-amal. Na'am. This is all in accordance to what has been mentioned clearly in the Quran and in the Sunnah. So how these three categories are being categorized and how they are linked either to theoretical knowledge or practical knowledge, but which is to be implemented practically by action. And then the result of having theoretical and practical knowledge, having knowledge which is amaliyah, which necessitates action to be implemented. If you do so, you are rewarded, and if you don't do so, then you are eligible for punishment and are subject to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will. In sha'adabahu wa in sha'ghafara lah. If he wishes, then he may punish you or forgive you. Only he is the one that decides such things. So do we understand now where al-Usul al-Thalatha comes in and why al-Usul al-Thalatha is really important? And I mentioned that the categorization of the people of knowledge is also a categorization of which we can call climbing a ladder type of categorization, meaning that you have to climb the first step before you climb the second step. Ilm al-Aqidah, then Ilm al-Halal wal Haram, and then Ilm al-Jaza. Now, then we move on to Uloom al-Maqasid and Uloom al-Ala. The people of knowledge, they talk about Uloom al-Maqasid and Uloom al-Ala. But so far, before I move on, I wish that the students make it clear that they have understood so far with regards to al-Ulum al-Shar'iyyah al-Nafi'ah and its categorization in terms of its subject. That these three categories are in terms of its subject, as mentioned by al-Qayyim in al-Qasidah Nooniyah, and as mentioned by Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah when he talks about the subject of the Quran from the beginning till the end. Now, whatever you read in the Quran, no doubt that the Quran from the beginning till the end is nothing but the manifestation of the Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But some parts of the Quran focus on these areas. Now we move on to the main purpose of al-Ilm al-Shar'i. So we know that al-Ilm al-Shar'i, Shari'i knowledge, Islamic knowledge, the foundation of learning Islamic knowledge or Shari'i knowledge is what? Is at-Tafaqquh of the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is the premise of learning al-Ilm al-Shar'i. The purpose of learning al-Ilm al-Shar'i is to understand the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Everything other than this is secondary. This is the primary objective. Everything else that you learn as a medium that will assist you, help and aid you to understand and have the correct comprehension of the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But there are certain subjects or certain things that you may learn, or certain tools, certain subjects or things that you may learn, which will act as a tool or a medium for you to understand the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Do you understand the difference? You either study those subjects which are directly related to the Quran and the Sunnah. Knowledge of the Quran, ilm al-Aqidah. Or you study certain subjects which aid you and assist you and act as tools in order for you to understand the Kitab and the Sunnah. Do we understand the difference between ilm al-Maqasid and ilm al-Alat? Or ilm al-Ala, sorry. I don't know if the students are understanding what I'm trying to say, but this is very important. Ala. Alif Lam with the mud لام أنت مربوطة. علم الآلة آلة. طيب لا بأس, I will explain. Now, I will give an example. Everything will come. So far, everything that we have studied, have I ever taught you anything without giving you practical examples for you to understand? So far. I answer with yes or no. So the people of knowledge, they say that when a student of knowledge starts to seek knowledge, they say that a student of knowledge, when a student of knowledge starts to seek knowledge or takes the path for seeking knowledge, then the path that he chooses, he or she chooses to seek knowledge will be categorized into two. So he's learning, the path of learning, of how he obtains knowledge or how he is acquainted with knowledge, will be categorized into two. Uloom al-Maqasid and Uloom al-Ala. Now what is Uloom al-Maqasid and what is Uloom al-Ala is what we are now going to discuss, what we need to understand. So when you are actually seeking knowledge, when you start to seek knowledge, when you start to study something about Islam, whatever you are studying, this text that you are studying, this discipline that you are learning, this journey of learning and study either will be identified as being from Uloom al-Maqasid or Uloom al-Ala. Exactly. So far, before we define what Uloom al-Maqasid and Uloom al-Ala, meaning that your learning experience will either be identified as what you are learning, the content of what you are learning. So let's look at what Uloom al-Maqasid is. What do the people of knowledge say in terms of Uloom al-Maqasid? They say that Uloom al-Maqasid are those type of different categories of knowledge which are connected to Aqidah, action, obedience, contemplation, and taking heed. For example, ilm al-Aqidah, ilm al-Tafsir, ilm al-Hadith, ilm al-Fiqh, ilm al-Suluk. Suluk means behavior and conduct. Ilm al-Jaza, we already studied. Ilm al-Fara'id, inheritance. As-Sira al-Nabawiyyah, the Prophet ﷺ's biography. Al-Adab al-Shar'iyya, and so on. These are all different types of discipline which are known as Uloom al-Maqasid. Do we understand? أين أنتم? So now, if I was to ask you the question, that the three categories that were mentioned earlier, ilm al-i'tiqad, ma'rifatul amri والنهي والhalal والharam, and ilm al-jaza, are they from ilm al-maqasid or ilm al-ala? Na'am, barakallahu fiqh, from ilm al-maqasid. Now, once again, somebody's asked, and I will repeat for the benefit, that Uloom al-Maqasid or Ilm al-Maqasid are those type of subjects or categories of knowledge that are directly connected to belief, اعتقاد, العمل والعمل implementation, والامتثال being obedient by doing that which you have been commanded and abstaining from that which you have been forbidden. At-tafakkur, contemplation, wal-i'tibar, taking heed. And some of these subjects include knowledge of aqidah, knowledge of tafsir, knowledge of hadith, knowledge of fiqh, knowledge of suluk, conduct and behavior, knowledge of jaza, being recompensed, knowledge of fara'id, inheritance, knowledge of Siratul Nabawiyyah, the biography of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, wal-adab ash-Shar'iyyah, and Islamic ethics and morals, manners, as we have taken. The second category is Uloom al-Ala. Uloom al-Ala. And what is al-Uloom? What is Uloom al-Ala defined by the people of knowledge? They say that Uloom al-Ala are those types of subjects or disciplines that you study which aid you to master and study Uloom al-Maqasid and have a good understanding and grip of Uloom al-Maqasid. And from amongst them are al-Ulum al-Lughawiyya, the different sciences pertaining to the Arabic language. Ilmu Usul al-Fiqh, the knowledge of Usul al-Fiqh, Usul al-Tafsir, Usul al-Hadith and Mustalah al-Hadith. These subjects in reality are disciplines or subjects which are utilized as tools and mediums for you to learn in order for you to understand Uloom al-Maqasid. Is it clear now? I said ilmu usul al-fiqh, I didn't say al-fiqh. Whoever said, I thought fiqh was from the maqasid. I said usul al-fiqh, I didn't say al-fiqh. Is that clear to the one who asked this question? I said ilmu usul al-fiqh, not ilmu al-fiqh. So the Arabic language that you learn is considered by the people of knowledge to be min ulum al-ala, not from min ulum al-maqasid. Na'am, you can call it ulum al-ghaya. Are we clear? So basically these type of subjects or different sciences or different what else you want to call them, subjects or different types of knowledge in reality aid you and assist you and act as a medium and tool in order for you to master Ulum al-Maqasid. Do we understand the difference between Ulum al-Maqasid wa Ulum al-Ala? The difference between the two is that the second category serves as a medium and as a tool. If you, for example, if you wanted to master medicine, if you wanted to master medicine, for example, is a subject, is a core subject. And they said to you that the only way you can master medicine is by learning Japanese. So if you wanted to master medicine, you would have to learn Japanese. Japanese would become ilmul ala. meaning a medium and a tool that you would have to acquaint yourself in order to understand medicine. Do you understand the difference now? I don't think there can be a clear example than this. That's so. To learn Japanese in itself is not the objective, but rather to learn Japanese is a medium and an intermediary to understand medicine. So for example, now let's take our practical example. إِنَّا جَعَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. The Qur'an was revealed in which language? In the Arabic language. So in order for us to understand the Qur'an competently and comprehend the Qur'an properly, we need to learn the Arabic language, and we may need to learn different disciplines within the Arabic language in order to understand certain things of the Qur'an. So learning the Arabic language and its sciences becomes ilmul ala in order to serve understanding ilmul maqasid of the Qur'an itself, which is ilmul aqidah and halal and haram, for example. Now, somebody is asking, the three categories of beneficial Shar'i knowledge mentioned earlier are from which ilm of the two? Are you talking about ilm today's lesson, Maryam? Now, somebody has answered, maqasid. Now, so the question that needs to be asked is that, do we understand the difference? For example, if I said to you that you will not be able to understand tafsir of the Qur'an clearly, or comprehend tafsir of the Qur'an until you have studied, for example, the knowledge of abrogation, ilm al-nasikh wal-mansukh. So ilm al-nasikh wal-mansukh will become ilm al-ala in order for you to study and learn, in order for you to understand the tafsir of the Qur'an related to halal wal haram, because you need to know which ruling has been abrogated or not abrogated. What is now halal and haram? The second type serves the first type. Now, the first type is primary and the second type is secondary. Word it as you wish, but understand what I'm trying to say here. Are you following what I'm saying so far? Now the question is an important question, which is a very important question, which is related to all of you. Which type of knowledge is given preference for the beginner student of knowledge? Ilmul maqasid or ilmul ala? If you say the first, then you can't understand the first without the second. And if you say second, then second is as in terms of rank and status is lower than the first. Do you understand now why it's so important for you students to know these issues? Otherwise, if we just started to study al-Usul al-Thalathah without you knowing any of these issues, then what would be the benefit? It's making a jigsaw, the jigsaw puzzle that you have, only knowing one side of it, not knowing the whole picture. I mean, if you don't find this, what I am teaching you here in terms of knowledge, before we actually start the book, as being beneficial, we can pack this up and start the book. But if you want to know everything from scratch before we go into the book and you're clear upon exactly what you are studying and know these important issues which will be of a benefit to you in everything that you study. In any subject that you study with me or other than me, the things which I have taught you will always put everything in perspective. Like today when you go away from this lesson, you will now understand that every time somebody tells you about learning something about Islam or a topic or a subject or a book, you will be able to categorize it whether it's from ilm al-maqasid or ilm al-alam. First of all, where the discussion that we are having here is what? Which type of category of people are we discussing? Let's determine that first before we answer the question. Before we decide ilm al-maqasid or ilm al-ala, the student of knowledge, barakallahu fiqh. We're talking about the student of knowledge. We're not talking about the layman. Are we talking about the layman? With regards to the layman, that awwalu wajibin alayh, the first obligation upon every single human being, a Muslim, is what? Is to learn about the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that which is obligatory upon him. So those of you who say that ilm al-aqidah comes first, no doubt. For everybody, there is no exception and there is no distinction and there is nothing that is distinguished from this. But we're not talking about the common folk or the layman. We're talking about a student of knowledge who now is going to start and busy himself with seeking knowledge. He wants to start to learn and utilize his free time and take the path of seeking knowledge. So do we understand the difference now? For those of you who said Aqidah always comes first, naam, that stays in his place. But we're talking about a particular type of people. We're talking about the student of knowledge. The student of knowledge now is different from those who don't seek knowledge, meaning that those who don't seek additional knowledge, they only seek that which is obligatory upon them, to know that. I mean, in plain words, I don't think every single Muslim on the face of this earth is a student of knowledge, are they? No. So there are those obligations which are obligatory upon everybody, regardless of whether you are a student of knowledge or not, and that's ilm al-tawheed, to know that and to believe in that. But then there are those who further and pursue their studies, and these are the tullab al-ilm, the talabat al-ilm, the talib al-ilm. So the discussion or the answer that is going to be discussed here is not in relation to the common folk or the normal people. It's with regards to the students of knowledge. So the people of knowledge, what do they say? They say with regards to this that some of the people of knowledge have differed on this issue of what is given preference. Uloom al-maqasid and uloom al-alat, and their differing is not a differing of tadad, meaning a contradictory difference, or rather their difference is due to from the perspective that they see things. But we can say was-sawab, that which is correct and the balanced and the moderate position in this with regards to the beginner student of knowledge is what? Is that the student starts with the mukhtasarat to seek knowledge. He starts with that which have those texts or books which have been summarized and abridged. That's what he starts with. So the first point is, the answer is that he starts with the mukhtasarat. And these mukhtasarat, or abridged and summarized books, have, the text is easy to understand in Uloom al-Maqasid. So the first thing is that he starts with Uloom al-Maqasid, and he starts with the abridged books in Uloom al-Maqasid. They summarized. Until he is able to grasp and comprehend the issues under discussion. His grasping and comprehension and understanding of those issues in the mukhtasarat is at a good level. So the first thing that he busies himself with, or the path that he or she takes, is that which is the most concerning to him and the most superior with regards to his or her condition. And we all know that this is with regards to this time and age now in the 21st century. Al-Aqidah is the most important, because the deviancy now that has been spread in the 21st century, that there is shirk in rububiyyah as well as uluhiyyah, as well as asma wa sifat, and deviation in asma wa sifat. Are you understanding what I'm saying, or it's not making sense? So, al-Usul al-Thalathah, somebody said, I understand a little. So we said that you start, there are books that the people of knowledge in Uloom al-Maqasid have authored. You look at the books which have been abridged and summarized of these books. So you have mutawwalat. What are mutawwalat? Mutawwalat are the actual books without being summarized or being abridged. They are known as what? The mutawwalat. And the mukhtasarat are the summarized, abridged. For example, you have Sahih al-Bukhari. Sahih al-Bukhari is in how many volumes? Has everybody seen Sahih al-Bukhari? How many volumes in Sahih al-Bukhari, depending on the print that you have? In English, somebody said it's 9. Then you have somebody who came and summarized al-Bukhari in a single volume. So he summarized the 9 volumes into one single volume. This is mukhtasarat. So let me finish my whole discussion on this issue, and then you can ask your questions. So in Uloom al-Maqasid, when it comes to the bab of Aqidah, you start with the mukhtasarat. And what are the benefits of going to the mukhtasarat? The benefits of adopting the mukhtasarat are to: 1, then rather than reading everything which is in great detail, all the important points are summarized for you. Secondly, we find that the mukhtasarat sahlatul ibara, that the wording is very easy to understand. So you start with, so the student of knowledge, that's the path that they take. They in Uloom al-Maqasid, they start with that which is most important and most virtuous, being more benefit, or has more merits of studying. So for example, now, the book which I am going to teach you, al-Usul al-Thalathah is a mukhtasar of Thalaatha Al Usul. What is it? Al-Usul al-Thalathah is a different book from Thalaatha Al Usul. And it's from the Mukhtasarat. You know, when you go to the doctor, you know, when you go to the surgery and you're sick, and the doctor diagnoses you with a problem. You know, he knows what is good for you and what is beneficial for you and what is harmful for you. Yeah? Yes or no? Does the doctor, or does he? If he doesn't, then he shouldn't be called a doctor. He doesn't have ilm al-ghayb, knowledge of the unseen, but his diagnostic test should be able to define and determine of what is good for his patient and what is going to be harmful. So the people of knowledge, the ulama, they know what is good for their beginners, the students of knowledge. They know what they need first, of how to help them build their foundation. So hence their selection of studying a book or a text is not like going to the market and picking a nice reddish colored tomato. Oh, I like this tomato. Oh, I like this book. The cover of the book is nice. It's glossy. It's a hardback. Come on, I don't want to study this book. You know, as some people say, why are we studying this book? So the reason of why al-Usul al-Thalathah was selected over Thalaatha Al Usul is that most of you are beginners and you start with the Mukhtasarat. You start with the Mukhtasarat before you actually study the book. That will drive you and motivate you and put you in the right direction of how to grasp knowledge. Or when you will be given this knowledge with little doses, and their dose will start to increase and to increase and to increase and to increase. If you're given a big dose at the beginning, then what's going to happen? It may be harmful. Even the COVID injection is given in how many doses? Are they giving it to everyone? People are dying night and day. People are dying night and day, but they're saying, no, we're going to give you one. And then we're going to wait. And then we're going to give you another one after a few weeks. Because if I don't know, but if they were to give it in a single dose, it could have a negative effect upon the people. Now, people run away from seeking knowledge. You know why a lot of people run away from seeking knowledge? And why a lot of people become bored? And why a lot of people then they detest seeking knowledge? Is because they don't take the right path and they don't start with the Mukhtasarat. So the Mukhtasarat is your bread and butter. It's gonna be easy for you, especially when you're not used to being in the mode of studying. Even when you go to learn how to swim when we were children, when we used to go to school, they take you to the shallow end before they take you to the deep end. They don't put you in the deep end from day one. So the selection of the book is not a selection because the teacher felt like it, like buying a tomato or an orange or an apple. Just because you like the look of it. Everything is planned and based upon knowledge. And that's why al-Usul al-Thalathah was given preference for you based upon your circumstance, your status, your aptitude level, your knowledge level, and know that you will be able to master this book before you move on to actually studying Thalaatha Al Usul. So it took us 7-8 lessons to explain why we decided to choose al-Usul al-Thalatha over Thalaatha Al Usul. So the student starts with the mukhtasarat in Uloom al-Maqasid. Then he moves to the secondary sources of Uloom al-Ala that will hand in hand aid him and assist him and work as a tool and as a medium for him to learn that which he is learning from the mukhtasarat, from the Uloom al-Maqasid, and aid him and assist him. So, you know, when you have a computer in front of you and, you know, you have all these options, you have tools. Has everybody seen the option of tools on the computer screen? So that tools that we find on the computer screen is what? It's not the actual, it's not from the primary things that are being utilized to do whatever work you're doing, but they are tools to support of what you are writing or inserting or using on the computer. Yes or no? Do you understand or you don't understand what I'm saying? Has the chat been disabled on the source or no? So look at how the people of knowledge, how they set out the plan, the road plan for you. Now, if you don't have a road plan, which many don't when they start to seek knowledge, I have seen some people, they are buzzing when it comes to seeking knowledge. And the next minute you see them, they're doing cooking shows, painting walls, and all sorts. Drift away suddenly, because you know why? There was no roadmap that was drawn out for them. And who's going to draw you that roadmap and hold your hand like a toddler or like a child or like a new learner? If you don't like these words to be used, then a new learner. We are all children when we start to seek knowledge. What happens? You need a scholar, a mentor, a student of knowledge who is firmly grounded to hold your hand and tell you no, this, yes, no, and guide you. Because when you have people attending this Usul al-Thalatha and next minute Kitab al-Tawheed and next minute Aqidat al-Wasiti, and it's a cocktail with a mocktail. Cappuccino with a flappuccino. Everything mixed in together. But be with the people of knowledge and they'll draw them up. They'll know you as you know now will come your interests. What are your interests as a student of knowledge? What is your interest as a person? Your interest and my interest might not be the same, so you may want to specialize in a particular area after you have studied the essentials. But this mocktail and cocktail and flappuccino and cappuccino and espresso and mocha and everything together. So you go to the coffee shop and say, give me an espresso and give me a mocha and give me a flappuccino and give me a cappuccino, and you want to drink everything together. The guy in the coffee shop is going to think, who is this madman? Saying, put everything together. I'm going to have a hot and cold, and I'm going to have this, and I'm going to have... What's going to happen to that person? Your road plan needs to be planned out. Somebody who is from the West is somebody different from who lives in Medina. circumstances, atmosphere, surroundings, accessibility, resources, language, all these factors. Only a mentor is able to assist you and guide you and draw that roadmap out for you and say to you, you know what, this is what you need. And then when you tell the students that, Ya akhi, Ya ukhti, al-Usul I've studied that book a million times, what do I need to study this book for? If you are my students and you are like my children, then I wish good, just like I wish good for my son, I wish good for you. And I believe that from amongst you Allah will rise. Allah, this is my dua. This is my dua, that from my students, oh Allah, rise men and women that will protect your religion and spread your religion and purify the religion. With moderation, being balanced, being sincere. And I believe Allah will, innahu sami'un mujibud dua. And I believe Allah will accept my dua, because then I will continue doing this dua for all of you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A lot of work needs to be done. A lot of seeking knowledge comes before spreading knowledge. Let's seek knowledge together. And let's, together as a team, spread the true knowledge of Islam in the West. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.